Good evening. This is News.PH, but it's not politics as usual. I'm Pia Hontiveros. Former Senator Panfilo Lacson submitted yesterday the so-called Napo-list list to the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee containing the alleged pork barrel scam conspirators. The list is said to cause mayhem and damage, and not just to the upper chamber. Join us tonight in the first half of the show, Secretary Butch Abad of the Department of Budget and Management. Secretary Abad, good evening. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Pia, and thanks for having me tonight.
Yeah, Secretary Abad, you've said that your PDAF did not go through any Napoles NGO and instead went straight to Batanes. Was there any other? What were the implementing agencies, and were there other NGOs?
Well, this happened 14 years ago. I have to go back to the records, but I distinctly remember that we had support for scholars, for indigents, for fishermen, farmers, for infrastructure projects of local government units.
Okay. But there were no implementing agencies? There were implementing agencies, no NGOs.
Oh, none of these NGOs that are, being vilified today as being fake NGOs.
Okay, but there were NGOs.
Well, we worked with
non-Napoles NGOs.
Well, they were, we were working directly with local government units and national government agencies, and we were not coursing our money through NGOs. Especially the illegitimate or fake ones, whether of the Napoles breed or otherwise.
Yeah. So you made judicious use of your
PDAF,
so. And you were above board in all aspects, and you certainly didn't pocket anything.
I believe
in other
so.
Words.
Yeah.
I know you believe so.
Yeah,
you did.
Certainly.
You did not, no?
Yeah. Certainly, they were above board.
Okay. Kailangan ba may NGO?
Hindi naman.
Because through your example...
Well, the thing is, I have been associated with the social movements and NGOs for quite a long time. And, you go to any department of government, agencies encourage working with legitimate NGOs because the idea there is they work with the communities, and usually government agencies are not good at organizing communities. And what you'd like to do is work with organized communities, and they sort of help in that process of formation or organization.
Yeah. So parang yung mga Napoles allied NGOs ang nagbigay ng masamang...
Oh yeah, and they're very small. They're very small compared to the thousands that are all over the country. For example, helping in environment, helping in housing, helping in social credit. So there are many more, and unfortunately, there's very few who have been manipulated or established to perpetrate these scams are unfortunately causing, this bad impression about NGOs in general, which is, I think, very unfair.
When it comes to the release of the special allotment release orders or the SAROs, does the Budget Secretary, have a direct say in that? You affix your signature to that SARO?
Well, in my case, I do not. I delegate that to somebody else because before there were hundreds of this. But when we realized that number one, it was the source of many of these what they call yung naglalako ng mga fake SAROs, and it was also a cause of so much delay, the releasing process.
Yeah.
So what we did was beginning this year, we have done away with a greater part of this, so that what we call now the regime of the GAA as the release document itself. So when it is approved, then it becomes the
an automatic thing.
Yeah, so you don't have to go to the DBM. Kaya this year, 86% of the budgets of the departments and agencies in the first week of January were automatically released.
Yeah, but you said you delegated this to someone else, so there is someone who still signs off for the DBM?
Oh yeah, but these are really what we call the projects who are in the negative list. That's either, for example, calamity funds. You cannot know calamities in advance, so you cannot disaggregate the use of calamity funds. So you still issue a special budget release when the need arises.
Well, in a way, is that a good thing? Because kung sasabit in the future yung mga
yeah, but
at least wala yung pirma mo doon, ganon?
No. That's not really the point. The point is, we have more things to be concerned about than just simply, because all of these projects that are issued release orders have gone through our scrutiny. And we will not authorize the issuance of release orders unless we have scrutinized them very carefully.
At what point were you made aware of the list or lists?
Well, there was a lot of rumor that was circulating weeks ago.
Yeah, okay. Did President Aquino himself show you the list?
Well, no, it was just being talked about. And, my attitude was until, an affidavit is by itself not a statement of fact. It's really the opinion of the person that's issuing it. And it has really no significant probative value until there is evidence attached to it.
Even if it is signed?
Even if it is signed, that can, in fact, put substance to the assertions there. But even if it is signed and even with an evidence, the Department of Justice, for example, we still have to review whether, in fact, the statements there and the supporting evidence are really factual or have factual basis.
Yeah, that's what you have hearings and a trial for.
Exactly, and
then to check and counter-check kung talagang totoo
and furthermore, the ombudsman will still have to conduct its own investigation, because ultimately, like a fiscal, the ombudsman has to establish whether in fact there is basis for filing an information or a case, what they call prima facie, a basis for filing. So that's why I'm really surprised with the, media frenzy over an unsigned document that has 3 versions.
Okay, although she did submit an affidavit today.
Yeah, but
a
today,
signed affidavit.
But yesterday and the days before that, an unsigned document is a piece of paper.
Okay, so you have not really seen the list except what's come out in the media, for example.
What is now reproduced in the media.
Pinakita halimbawa ni President Aquino sa inyo, hindi.
Hindi naman, yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, why do you waste the President's time on an unsigned document that, I think he has better things to do.
Yeah. Although he received a copy and he himself was, in so many words, parang doubting the
I suppose so, yeah, of course. Well, just the information that there is, at least, of course, attracts your attention, definitely. But then, if you see that the list is unsigned, I mean...
Okay. The President doesn't believe the accusations against you, apparently. Are we correct with that submission?
Well, I think it's best for you to ask the President. I don't want to be presumptuous, but... he has known me since 1986. And so we've worked together. I've worked for his mom, and we were together in Congress. Now I'm working for him. So he knows me much, much more than many other people.
If your name was not on that list, would he take it seriously, you think?
What do you mean, that list?
Yeah.
It really depends on what is really asserted in that list. But, so far we don't have a copy of that. Because if it's just a list, as like was initially presented, there's no story behind it. There's no context behind it. So, I mean, how can you react to a list? And the many stories that came out were just really speculations, interpretations,
Yeah. Okay.
There was one paper that even said that all the earnings I made went to a bank in Singapore. I mean, it's a speculation over speculation, and I don't think that helps the public.
Okay. But he doesn't take the list seriously. Is that the correct observation?
Well, I wouldn't want
making?
to interpret, how he appreciates that list because, as president, he has much more information than me. So, it's better to ask him.
Oh. Well, that's the impression that is given because yesterday he was saying you have this list na may X number of people, the second list -2, the third list +4. So, ano ba talaga ate? Parang gano'n. Parang he doesn't take it seriously.
Of course, how can you take something that
has many versions?
That is not signed and has many versions? I mean,
okay. Is it because it's from a polluted source? Does Malacanang, for example, does the president look at Lim-Napoles as a polluted source?
Well, certainly she has not been consistent. Even with this list. And even with his previous testimonies before the Senate and subsequently. So, but, the Secretary of Justice, the National Bureau of Investigation, by their training and instinct, will always, go in the direction of where they think that they can get evidence.
Okay. But last year, everybody remembers that Mrs. Napoles was escorted to Camp Crame by the President himself and Secretary Rojas.
Yeah, that's a fact.
But what does that mean? And then afterwards, she doesn't say anything in the Senate, sits through a Senate hearing for 5-6 hours, says nothing. And then, before that, ang sinasabi kasi is, she knows a lot, so we should make sure she's alive, etc. We should protect her, secure her, etc.
Well, I think the reason why, because she was the one who offered to surrender. And, as president and knowing that this woman knew a lot, and as president who wants to seek out the truth, I think that's what's really motivated that. And because if she suddenly disappears and all of these things are buried with her, then you would have missed an opportunity to get to the truth, right? So.
Okay. How again did the president react, and how did he assure you that he believes in you and your credibility? What did he say exactly?
Well, he did not exactly.
He didn't exactly say
that to me
directly, or?
Because, as I said, we do not have to assure each other. We know each other, and we've trusted each other for so long. So,
but not even a few words to say na something like, "Oh, wala yon," or
Well, of course. In fact, I told him, Mr. President, we should not really invest too much time worrying about this thing because, in the first place, this is unsigned. It has not been substantiated. I think what we should wait for is the affidavit that's eventually signed, that is supported by evidence, that is vetted by the DOJ, and eventually examined and by the ombudsman, and that's when I think we should really.
So it was you who brought it up, or he brought it up?
No, it was. I mean, of course, I will be lying to you if I tell you that it's not mentioned in when we are gathered together for some other things.
Yes.
But it's not something that it's a main
it's not
agenda
like it's
of
on
a meeting.
the main agenda. I understand. No, but my question is, he brought it up or you brought it up?
No, well, it's brought up. I don't know who brought it up. But,
okay.
Because I'm very queasy about raising it because since I'm the one involved and they make decisions subsequently. So as much as possible, if I can deal with this problem myself, I'll deal with this problem
They make
myself.
decisions? They?
I mean, eventually, the Secretary of Justice,
Okay.
because the President's the Secretary of Justice is the alter ego of the President.
Yeah, the President's not the alter ego. Okay. So what was the response of the President when you said, Mr. President, we shouldn't waste our time with these lists, etc., that are unsigned, affidavits unsigned?
I mean, he agrees with me, but at the same time, when you have this information, him wanting to know the truth, of course, will not just simply think of it as nothing, but so just await what she eventually submits.
Okay, so that's what he said now.
No, I think that's what I think what would be in his mind, because that would also be what would be in my mind, because.
Okay. So you didn't verbalize it? Ganun ba yun?
I know.
No, what happened nga? I'm just curious.
No,
when you said that, his response was, ay, oo, parang ganon. What? He said yes? He didn't say anything anymore?
He just expressed this surprise that, there's so many lists. So who do you, which list do you believe in? So, and he's aware that there was in fact a process that was going on where she was trying to put together her own affidavit. So it's very possible that all these lists may not in fact agree with the eventual affidavit that she will sign. So, I mean, why waste your time?
But was it clear to you that he still believes in you?
I'm still here.
You're still the Secretary of Budget.
I mean, how can you make a judgment on something that is groundless or baseless? I think that's a basic fairness. I mean, you cannot judge a person on the basis of a unsigned list floating around. I think if it's certainly, whether he's president or ordinary person, you don't do that.
Okay. Is there a script to all of this from the time that we had the Ang Matuwid, the impeachment trial, and now the pork barrel scam investigations? Is there a script that is in operation or something?
Whose script?
No, I'm just saying, is there a script? Is there one? I mean, it's like...
I'm not aware.
What
is clear is that these things did not surface in the previous administration. And what is clear is these things have surfaced under this administration. So what that indicates is this administration has created an environment where, these things are allowed to surface. And in fact, it's been very vigorous in pursuing its anti-corruption and good governance campaign. Where did it ever happen where you have a former president in jail, a chief justice of the Supreme Court is convicted, an ombudsman impeached?
Although Gloria had well, not Gloria herself.
Yeah, but this line of high officials in government, I mean, I think the climate of the Ang Matuwid has made that possible.
The climate of truth-telling?
Yes.
Okay. Is someone calibrating Malacanang's moves on this? Although there is no script, as you say, someone is making sure na tama yung mga sinasabi ng Malacanang, tama ang galaw ng Malacanang, ng Aquino administration.
No, the only basic guiding principle is what the President said during the SONA and directed to the Secretary of Justice. Follow where the evidence leads you.
Okay. What does this Napo-list list have to do with 2016? Does it have anything to do with 2016?
Well, I cannot categorically say that, but certainly events like this, as we approach 2016, you would expect can be exploited because of 2016, and that can possibly happen.
So they're not exactly attacking the president, but attacking people close to him?
Well,
like you, for example?
It's also possible because, the president has been implementing very difficult reforms that's leading to people going to jail or people losing prerogatives that they enjoyed before, and therefore it's causing certain vested interest to fight back. And they have been trying to undermine the president's credibility, but somehow, as the survey showed, his level of trust and approval rating has not diminished over time, which is unprecedented in Philippine presidential history. So they have not succeeded. So I think what they're trying to do now is get to the people they perceive to be close to him, and hopefully by discrediting us, they hope that eventually they can begin to make a dent on the president's popularity. They hope.
Yeah, but obviously it's not really the president they're after. Is it the person who is going to be the administration standard bearer in 2016?
I don't know, but certainly they're looking at people who are closely associated with the president or been working with him. Upon whom he has confidence.
Okay. And of course, that would be people, for example, like Mar Rojas, who is touted to be the Liberal Party standard bearer.
Well, as it is,
so because if they can't put a dent on the president's ratings, then they might as well.
That's entirely possible, because as it is right now, he seems to be the anointed one, and of course there's still a process that the party has to go through. So
seems to be the anointed one.
Well, he gave way and ran as his vice president and has been loyally serving him now as Interior Secretary.
Okay, so you think it is highly possible that they may be doing all these moves now. Itong pork barrel list, Napo-list list, Napo-list, etc., because they have 2016 in mind.
Well, those who are trying to exploit this opportunity, I'm not saying that this whole thing is driven by that. It's very possible that in the case of Napo-list, she has been vigorously trying to get the administration to grant her immunity by becoming a state witness. And so she has her own motivation, and in fact that action by her can in fact be the opportunity for others to, whether it's 2016 or whether those who want to derail what the administration is doing or distract people from paying attention to other cases, that those are possible.
Is there a real danger that institutions could collapse because of this scam or controversy?
Well, I'm not very sure about that, but certainly this can be a distraction. I mean, if in the media every day this is played up, then it creates some hesitation. It slows down the processes in the legislature, because they have to attend to these concerns, and it may also rankle the relationships, among the senators. And we do have important legislations to pass. The budget, the Organic Act, freedom of information, the anti-dynasty bill.
Talaga freedom of information?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess it also affects your work. I mean, like.
Of course.
The whole day you've been granting interviews left and right, no?
Yeah, it takes away time from us, and we are pushing greater transparency and accountability in the Department of Budget and Management, and suddenly you are the face of the opposite values. I mean,
that kind of has an effect, right?
Of course.
Especially if you're called Napoles mentor.
The most incredible, assertion so far. I mean,
Okay.
that's certainly absolutely a lie.
Final words, Secretary Abad?
Well, ang pakiusap lang namin sa taong bayan, what we want to ask our people is, to be very discerning about these developments, because as I said, there is so much frenzy about an unsigned document that has many versions. Certainly, you can get distracted. You can get confused. So I think we have to be very mindful that there is a process that will allow us to vet so that finally we get to the truth behind all of these things. Yun po ang tignan natin kasi eventually dadaan pa yan sa NBI, sa Department of Justice, tapos isasampa pa yan sa Ombudsman. Yun ang abangan nating proseso. Huwag itong maraming umiikot na papel na kung ano-anong pangalan at kung ano-anong kwento na napapaloob dito.
All right. Thank you very much, Secretary Butchabad of the Department of Budget and Management. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you, Pia.
After the break, we have Professor Edmund Dayaw and Malu Tikia. They'll be joining us. Please stay with us. News.PH will be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News.PH on the Solar News channel. I'm Pia Hontiveros. Joining us here in the studio in the second part of our show, Professor Edmund Dayaw, Executive Director, Local Government Development Foundation, and Political Science Professor at the University of Santo Tomas, and Malu Tikia, Founder and General Manager. I keep mispronouncing this. It's Publicus Asia Incorporated. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening.
Okay. Good evening. Formado. Okay, Malu, you've warned that Ping Lacson's list is not signed by De Lima and that we should wait for De Lima's... I'm sorry, but Ping Lacson's list is not signed by Napo-list and that we should wait for De Lima's list.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think there will be major differences?
Yeah, I think that the fact that, well, first, you have three lists. Ping, De Lima, which is the affidavit, and Sandra Cam. What I don't understand is it appears that we are being played by Napo-list by making sure that she gives... I mean, the situation was she was going to have an operation, and my thing is, it's like a confession before a major operation.
That's not so major, di ba?
It's not so major.
Yeah. It's not a life-threatening.
Okay. You know, he gave an unsigned one, and then somebody kind of gave it to Sandra Cam. The husband gave it to Senator Lacson.
That was in March, the unsigned,
yes.
right? Oh, okay.
And then to Secretary Lima. What I don't understand is the whole thing happened a year and 19 days since today. Okay? So that means that list should have been the first priority of any fiscal in order to get to ferret the truth. Now we're like in the midstream. All we thought was the three were supposed to be the guilty ones, and it turns out that there are several other names. So the issue really is, why don't you make it transparent and let's see who are these people already, so that it kind of weakens also the cases of the three against the three, because all of a sudden now you have proof, not evidence, probably a document that says it's more than just the three. And what got me interested with the Lacson list was there were like in between people, individuals who were transacting, and I have some of the names there I knew personally after working in Congress. So I was really surprised by the list of Ping Lacson.
Okay. You're saying if there will be a difference, who is spinning whom,
yes.
Who gains from this, what was the proximate cause. Ang daming tanong. Wait, you're saying lahat ng listahan, including Ben-Hur Luis
because
list,
Ben-Hur's,
diba?
my beef with PDI is why release it only now? I mean, it has been with you pala from the very start. It was surrendered by the parents. It's an external drive that you should have, as journalists, you should have reviewed it, tried connecting the dots, tried piecing the evidence. I mean,
that's what they're doing now. They're releasing it.
Why is it so delayed?
Well, maybe it took time to go through 20,000 watt files or something.
I doubt. I mean, if it has been with you, it was submitted to you, and like it's Ben-Hur who trusts you and gives everything to you, that's a story. Why delay it? Meaning, kung hindi lumabas si Ping, PDI will not come out. Okay. If Napo-list didn't become so sickly and didn't necessitate an operation, PDI will not come out with that. Is that journalism?
Okay. Ed, do you want to jump in?
Well, from the very start, there's already some kind of twist or, your question earlier with the Secretary about this, if there's someone behind it. Because this
Is there a
already,
script?
one way or the other, shows us that, someone may probably be directing it or what. For one, for example, after the quote-unquote, the tell-all of Napoles to Secretary De Lima, no? I don't remember her saying in the press conference after that, there are more in the list. She simply said that it bolsters the allegation against the three. And then suddenly you have the list. And yes, of course, you have this other media organization suddenly jumping into the fray and coming up with all this list. Now, my take on this is simply that this is all part of a process, and the more we look at it, it's a question of how institutions will develop as a result. I don't really bother anymore with the personalities. Lahat yan magde-deny. It's already expected. Pero how the general public is going to take it and how it's going to impact on the institutions would be the most important
What do you mean by
question.
that? How it's going to impact on the institution?
Well, of course, so many have already voiced the so-called constitutional crisis, if ever. No? That's one. And second, of course, you have to take into consideration the possible legal actions that may be taken by different groups. In other words, what I'm trying to say is, whether the list is substantiated or otherwise, it goes to show that there are a lot more reforms needed that this administration claims, ngayon lang nagkakaroon ng quote-unquote, ano ba ito? Atmosphere of tell-all or transparency. At napagkakaintindi ko, kahit nung previous administrations, may mga ganyang mga lumalabas na mga whistleblowers. No? So, it's in other words, yung konsepto ng institutional reform, yung tuwid na daan, sa tingin ko wala pa nangyari. I'm sorry, no? But yeah. I mean, for example, the ombudsman would say, my life objective is to have all the
behind bars.
Meron na bang isa na behind bars? I mean,
yung behind bars meaning convicted, no?
Yeah,
behind bars and awaiting trial.
Yeah, parang talk is cheap eh. Madaling magsalita. So, pakita muna natin.
Why do you call the Napo-list or political wildfire?
Well, one, parang bigla-bigla eh. No? Everyone's suddenly talking about it. But it's been there for a while. No? Yeah. The COA list, I've always been talking about this. No? All of these, if I'm not mistaken, and I hope I'm wrong actually, that it started with this so-called special report. When this happened, actually, nagsimula lang to sa kape-kape with some colleagues. Eh. And then we decided, why don't we formalize it? So we called ourselves initially Metis Facility. So we were looking at the list, and you know what we found out? Sa listahan ng COA, ang dami. Pero wala pa din, I don't remember any media organization that really looked into the list of the so-called COA Special Report, 2007-2009. If you look at it, may mga malalaki pa doon na amount eh. And it's not even NGOs. Ang kailangan nilang tingnan dito, yung mga pera na dinala nila sa LGU. Kasi alam naman natin, because of the political dynasty, kung wala kang pagda-downloadan ng pera mo, NGO ka. Pero kung meron kang LGU, LGU ka. So bakit hindi natin tingnan? Hindi lang Napoles yung pinaggamitan na kung talagang imbestigahan, sana imbestigahan para honest to goodness. Yung mga nandoon sa listahan, be open, you confront it so that at the very least you contribute to the strengthening of our processes.
Yeah. Is there a script? And if there is one, can you follow it? I mean, or are we
I see a script.
There is a script.
I see someone.
Wait, where's the script coming from?
Coming from
Was it hijacked along the way, or is it still being controlled by the same entity, for lack of a better word, who started it in the first place? I mean, what?
I think my reading is it's a script to bury what happened during the impeachment.
Exactly.
And you will see when.
What do you mean, yung DAP?
Not only the DAP.
The removal, etc.
Yeah, the removal itself. How it was done, who got what. again, when I'm sorry to say, Butch is a friend, but when he said, it is only in this administration that you see the light, for me, that was a spin. You don't say that now, knowing that Mrs. Napoles, head of a syndicate, surrendered to the president.
Exactly.
And you're telling the public, what is a list? It's just a list. It's unsigned. But since you surrendered to the president, the first and the last person to defend and enforce our laws, it is incumbent upon the president to direct the agencies of government. Can you look at the veracity of this list, whether it's unsigned or not? Can you dig? Can you look for evidence? Is this true? I mean, there are previous presidents in our history who has done that without going through the formal process, and yet we just learn of somebody resigning or being forced to resign. Why? Because the president really wants to be true to his word, which is tuwid na daan. I mean, this government is a partner of the Open Government Initiative. Part of that is, pwede ba can you just make, my call to COA is, you've done the audit.
Yeah.
Can you just release it? Do not cover certain dates, do not cover certain years, and let the academics, hindi na yung political analysts, not the public, let the academics review it, refute the conclusion, so that for this is the test. This is the real test of tuwid na daan. You get to see what really happened to our money. Because kagagaling lang natin ng April where we paid our taxes. We want our taxes to be used properly. 10 billion is so big that it can probably cure our problem regarding MRT. It can probably cure our backlogs on school buildings. It can have more roads. We can have more water. I mean, if you break it down, taong bayan linoloko mo eh. And what I do not agree with all this list, to the politicians, can you just stop for a while and just focus? Ano ba talaga ito nangyari sa atin? Imagine, the fact is, there is one head of a syndicate. I heard that that's 5 in the House. One head who is turning this country into circles, and we seem not to be able to wrestle or rather correctly and where we want to go. Isa lang si Mrs. Napoles. Pero kita mo nangyayari, nagbubungguan tayo, nagkakagulo tayo. Kung ilalabas mo yung dokumento, I mean, when Secretary Butchabad, there is SARO, there is notice of cash allocation. The paper trail is there. You just follow it. Linagay mo yung pera sa LGU, meron yang receiving account. Exactly. Linagay mo yung pera sa NGO, meron yan na accounting, yung implementing agencies. Nandun yung paper trail. At nahuhuli yun ng COA through post-audit. So, napakadaling sundan. Ito, ngayon binigay na yung pangalan. Tingnan nyo nga kung ano yung kanilang PDAF. Diba? That should be the effort of truth-seeking and truth-telling. Not saying na, porque hindi pirmado, wala yang say. Wala sigurong probative value. Pwede sigurong part of the kaguluhan, the dissonance. But at the end of the day, when your name is included there and you're a politician, you would want your name to be cleared, right? And how do you clear that? Show the documents. Stop the press releases, stop the press conference. That's not the way to deal with it. You just show the documents. This is where I used it. Implementing agency, did you receive the money? Implementing agency, what happened to the money? Kasi ang isang fallacy that is happening right now is there is this conventional wisdom public side that senators and congressmen receive the money in cash, which is not true.
Yeah.
That's not true.
So that one has to be corrected, and nobody's talking about the institution. Hindi mo naman nakuha yung pera eh. Kung na-commission ka, that's another thing. But you don't get the whole 70 million PDAF and use it. No, because there are controls in the process. Is there a problem with the control mechanisms? You know, when Secretary Abad says, we did away with NCA, with SARO, and now it's automatic, that's wild. Because now there's no paper trail.
That's exactly what I was trying to say earlier. No? You have to start looking at institutions. Halimbawa, may gumamit ng martilyo sa mall, bawal na yung martilyo. Ganun ba yung approach natin? No? So, inabuso si PDAF, tanggalin na natin si PDAF. Hindi natin inisip, what will be the implication of all this sudden... These are knee-jerk reactions eh. If, ang tanong ko lang, how serious and how sincere is the apparent, quote-unquote, tuwid na daan in introducing these reforms? Kasi paano kung hindi na si Pinoy yung presidente? Ibig bang sabihin nito, will now again be groping in the dark? For example, look at the Department of Agriculture. So many have already, expressed whether something is really going wrong or what, no? Kailangan mo pang maghintay na pwede mong i-appoint si former Senator Kiko Pangilinan to look into the department. Eh, meron ka nang nakatalagang department secretary there, no? If you're really serious, why can't you not, look into your own people and find a way to cleanse the organization? Kailangan mo pang magtawag ng ibang tao. So, hindi ko maintindihan. One last thing, the political party reform law. Ito, mahilig tayo kasi sa shortcut eh. You have the anti-political dynasty bill. Tawag dito, babawal mo yung up to second, third, or fourth consanguine. These are the versions of the bill. Kung nakakaintindi ka sa town, lahat halos dyan magkakamag-anak eh. So wala nang tatakbo. Pangalawa, gusto mo ng qualified candidate, someone who is educated. And most of those educated in the countryside are those coming from the political families. Ibabawal mo yan. Bakit mo pinatay yung political party reform law? So my only question is, how serious, how sincere is this administration when it talks about political, institutional, structural reforms?
Equals daang matuwid.
Yeah, kasi gusto mo.
Yeah.
Freedom of information bill, asa na?
We'll have to take a short break. News.PH will be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to News.PH. Still with us, Professor Edmund Dayao of UST and Malu Tikia, founder, general manager, Publicus Asia Incorporated. So, you can follow the script.
Yeah.
Yes. Who's the script writer?
Initially, I thought it was a well-controlled script.
Okay, wait, where did it start, this well-controlled script? What was the
the
beginning?
soonest time that you have the three names there. Because again, as I've said, to my mind, it started with the COA special report. So why was the investigation focused only on the big three?
But Malacanang kept saying time and again na hindi naman sila ang puntirya at hindi 2016 ang dahilan because of the political ambitions of one of the three.
Let's say for the sake of argument, hindi man sila, no? Pero marami ding lumabas din na allegations on the part of those incumbents now, no? Meron kang narinig sa DAR, meron sa DA, no? In fact, there are so many other unreported issues on the ground. I do local government work, so more or less I know, no? But the question is, how has the administration dealt with all these allegations? Wala, parang isa-sideline, hindi totoo yan. So we're focused. I still have trust and confidence to Secretary whoever, no? Pero pagka opposition, tutuluyan yan, no? So lilitanyahan ka kagad ng mga issues. Look at the fertilizer scam, for example. When it started, it's as if they have all the evidences with them. And then suddenly, the ombudsman would say there's not enough and so it's dismissed. Ang dami ngayon nagagalit, no? Kasi you portrayed already GMA as basically the paragon of everything that's bad, no? And then suddenly, ganyan. Lahat nga sinisi mo na, so the proverbial kitchen sink, binato mo na sa kanya. But tapos suddenly, meron din pala sa'yo. Ngayon, it's no longer a question of who did what. It's a question of what would be the mechanisms that will now be put in place so that those found to be, guilty or those at the very least nakita na may ganyan, ma-prosecute, hold accountable, and at the same time, this is not going to happen, or at least there are preventive measures later.
We need to ask that question. What would be the mechanisms? We have the justice system, right?
The justice system doesn't work eh. Kasi, for example, why is it that we are so much dependent on whistleblowers and eyewitnesses?
Because there's no FOI.
Walang forensics
Ipapasa na raw
dito.
ko naman ang sabi ni Butch kanina.
Good luck.
So hindi ko alam kung yung police ba binibigyan ba nila ng enough na support. Pumunta ka sa presinto nga, ako nakarnap sa sakyan ko. Pagpunta mo sa presinto, ilalagbook lang yan. The Windows 98 na computer, hindi ko alam kung meron sa presinto. Probably if you go to Krame, you will see computers there. So the point of all this is, if you really want to strengthen and quote-unquote, you want to have accountability and transparency institutionalized, you start with the organization. I don't see anything working as far as moving as far as that point is concerned.
Speaking of moving, it's 2014, May 2014, 2 years and a month before the next election, or at least the next administration. And if this administration will have its way, it will still be in their hands, di ba? Is this how is this all going to play out? This whole pork barrel, Napo-list, Ben-Hur list, etc. How is this all going to play out for a Mar Rojas campaign for the presidency?
Oh my.
Does it have anything to do with that? How is it going to help? Never mind hinder. How is it going to help the Mar Rojas presidency?
It will
Campaign
definitely
for presidency.
help a lot. There's still time. And I hope that there's really something concrete that is done on the part of the camp of Secretary Rojas. No? Kasi ang daming opportunities. Whether you call it spin or whatever, he went to Yolanda, he went to this Zamboanga siege and all. No? Was there a picture at least that depicts that he's on it, doing something about it? No? And instead, you hear reports like he's asking the mayor to come up with a letter short of resigning. So instead of showing that you are really doing something good on the part of you as being Secretary of Interior, iba yung lumalabas, no? So kahit na sabihin natin that he's really working for the president, he's really doing something good, and I'd like to think that he is actually doing something good, I'm not sure whether this is properly communicated. In fact, I'm sure that you have heard some so-called campaigns, anybody but Binay, no? But if that is going to happen, you know, if you're doing political, organizing for a particular candidate, no? I don't see anything concrete really that's going to work in favor of that slogan, anybody but Binay. If we're looking at it that way.
Yeah. Pero itong pork scam, Napo-list scenario right now, how is it going to help a Mar Rojas campaign?
One, it's going to help him because generally Mar is viewed as being clean. He has not been dirtied in his political career, he's not been dirtied by pork. That is the upside. The downside is his present position and his previous position, the OTC and the ILG. I think he left a lot of problems in the OTC, which has led to the paralysis in the OTC. I think there is a divide in the ILG. Even the PNP, I heard, is not really, how should I put it, is not really at ease with the way he runs the organization. I think it's going to be very hard for him, but he has the administrative machine of this administration. He has the budget. Crucial for Yolanda. Ed mentioned Yolanda. If by November there is no action, that's going to crucify him. If by December 2015, there isn't much that has happened on pork, and certain legislations are not passed. He has, in a way, he has a share in the so-called blame game with the administration, and he will be standing there defending the record of this administration. So I don't know how they will tweak it so that it becomes Mar Rojas.
Pero yung Yolanda halimbawa, I mean, there's rehab SARPing Lacson anyway.
Yeah, but they're not releasing the money and there's no cooperation. I mean,
I'm sorry, it's presidential assistant.
Di ba he was set up to fail.
Exactly.
Okay. So in other words, hindi siya pwedeng sisihin?
Hindi mo
Pag
siya
walang
pwedeng
nangyari sa
sisihin kasi
Rolanda.
you can look at the EO that was released. There are no functions, powers, budget. There's not even an office. So, yung
Hindi,
sense of
may
urgency...
opisina sila.
May opisina, pero di ba, yung makita mo yung buong makinarya ng gobyerno going to
behind
Tacloban.
him. Oh, okay.
Hindi mo yung makikita, hindi mo mararamdaman eh.
Coordination lang.
Coordination.
Ito, gawin mo. But, when Secretary Rojas went to Yolanda to distribute money, you felt government. So, those two things differ. So, to a certain degree, you see this administration really propping up Secretary Rojas. And I would hope that Secretary Rojas will start defining himself. Not necessarily disassociating himself from the administration, but trying to really seize the day for this administration so that for the remaining 700 plus days, there's got to be some legacy and there's got to be some accounting. You stood for tamang daan.
Tuwid na daan.
Tuwid na daan. Dapat nga pala tamang daan. Di ba? Parang ano ito, iiwanan nyo ng hanging. So many members.
Actually, the game...
Wait. Hanging. Teka muna. You know, there was one thing you
Speed
asked
up.
in your column, no? Is there an exit scenario?
There should be an exit scenario.
No,
I
there
don't
should be
understand.
one. What are you saying? There's none?
There's none. I don't see
There's none?
any.
They might have thought there could be, but I don't think that they can still manage to do
The exit
that.
scenario should have been
I was
convicted yung tatlo.
Yeah.
Parang ganun.
No, not only the three. All the names.
All the names. And
Oo.
kasi ang focus for the longest time was the three.
Was the
di ba?
three.
Yeah, what's the thing? Which is, come to think of it, ay, ang dami pala nila. Bakit hindi nasama yung iba? Yun yung, when you go to palengke, they'll ask, ma'am, ba't yun lang tatlo? Sino tatlo? Nagsistick na sa mind yung tatlo.
Yeah.
Ang dami pa pala, si ganito, si ganito. So,
okay.
anong sentiment ng tao?
O, sige.
Galit.
Final, last one sentence each. Ed.
Well, the game plan is to dilute the so-called power of Pinoy to anoint someone. No? But if this is the game plan and someone behind this is having this game plan, he should ask whether the popularity of Pinoy is in fact even transferable. Kasi if that is just the objective, kasi parang napaka-simplistic. So the point here is, one, the administration should really get down to business, be serious in looking at the extent of this list. And second, those in the list should really come clean and really contribute to the whole process.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Malu?
Mine is basic. Accountability means leadership. Accountability means transparency. And when you, at the end of the day, when you face the Filipino voters by 2016, people will start, the top of mind would always be PDAF. Whatever happened to the country during your administration when all these things came out and you left it hanging. So the story has to end. You've got to have an exit strategy on that. And people are looking for heads to roll.
Okay, thank you very much, Malu Tiquia and Ed
Thank
Tayaw.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. See you again next Wednesday. Good night.